Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to English with Ikram. Lectureship and Subject Specialist English Test Series. In my last video, I discussed 40 very important MCQs from History of English Literature. And the area that I covered in that session, that was of John Donne and John Milton. In today's session, the same series is going on, and in today's session, I will discuss 20 more MCQs, and these MCQs are from Renaissance period. And you know that this period is very, very much important in the history of English literature. So today's MCQs are very much important for your Lectureship and Subject Specialist English Test. Lectureship test of KPPSC going to be held on 5th October, and Subject Specialist test is expected to be held in November. Why this video deadline? Because today's MCQs are very, very much important for your English Lectureship or Subject Specialist test, because today the period is Renaissance, very important period. So let's get started. MCQ number 1. The Renaissance period started in 15th century, 16th century or 17th century. Renaissance period, the rebirth of learning, very important period in the history of English literature. And the right option is the Renaissance period started in the 16th century. Right? The right option over here is 16th century. The Renaissance period started in 16th century. B. MCQ number 2. In English literature, the period from 15 to 1600 is called the period of Renaissance period, Puritan or Restoration period. This is the right option, again is option A, the Renaissance period. The Renaissance period is from 1500 to 1600. Very important period. I have discussed this again and again, that that's very important period in the history of English literature. Next, which period is also called the Elizabethan period or the age of Shakespeare? Which period of history of English literature is also called Elizabethan period or the age of Shakespeare? The Restoration period, the age of Johnson, or the Renaissance period? Again, the right option is option C, the Renaissance period. So another information for you about Renaissance period, that it is also called the Elizabethan period or the Shakespearean period. Renaissance means, number 4, MCQ number 4, Renaissance means revival, rebirth, B, new spirit. And option C, both A and B. And the right option is option C, both A and B, because Renaissance means rebirth, revival or new spirit. Next, the period followed by the Middle Ages in Europe was, the period that followed the Middle Ages in Europe was Restoration period, age of Johnson, or again the Renaissance period. So these are some new informations about the Renaissance period. So any MCQ, any information about Renaissance period that comes here in your lectureship or subject specialist period, so these MCQs will definitely help you, and if there is any MCQ regarding Renaissance period. The period followed by the Middle Ages in Europe was the Restoration period, the age of Johnson, or the Renaissance period. So again, this is Renaissance period which came after the Middle Ages in Europe. Number 7. The Renaissance first began in France, Spain and Italy. Again, another very important information about Renaissance period, that it began first in which country? France, Spain or Italy? So the right option is option C, Renaissance period began first in Italy. Number 8. In which field the Renaissance began in Italy? Italy में start हुआ, तो किस field में start हुआ? Rebirth of knowledge, rebirth of learning, revival, न्यू स्पिरिट, ये कौन से फील्ड में स्टार्ट हुई थी? इन विच फील्ड द रेनेसांस बिगैन इन इटली, ईदर इट्स आर्ट, आर्किटेक्चर और बोथ ए एंड बी. The right option is again over here, it's C, both A and B, because it started in Italy and this was in the fields of art and architecture. Number 9, the Renaissance began in Italy in which century? Italy में ये किस century में start हुई, and then later on it reached its height after the Middle Ages. It started there in 15th, 16th or 17th century. So here none of these. This option should be there because all these options are incorrect. In Italy, Renaissance began in 14th century. That option is not there. This is, I think, that clerical mistake, writing mistake hai. So it is 14th century. After the Middle Ages in 13th century, in 14th century, Renaissance period began in Italy, and then in 15th century, it reached to its height. The right option over here is 14th century. Keep this thing in mind that if such sort of information is there, if such sort of question is asked in your test, that in Italy, when did Renaissance start or it began, then the right option is 14th century. The Renaissance began in Italy in 14th century after the Middle Ages. Number 10, the country which became the most powerful nation in Europe in the late 16th century is France, Italy and or England. The country which became the most powerful nation in Europe in the last 16th century is it's England. It became the most powerful nation in the late 16th century, and the country that country is England. Number 12. When was the fall of Constantinople occurred by the invasion of the Turks? Let me repeat. When was the fall of Constantinople, Constantinia जिसे कहते हैं उर्दू में, occurred by the invasion of the Turks? 1452 AD, 1453 AD or 1454 AD? The right option is option B, 1453. When was the fall of Constantinople occurred by the invasion of the Turks? So it was there in 1453. Next, during the revival of learning, what changes took place in Europe? During the revival of learning, or during the Renaissance period, which changes took place in Europe? Books were printed, philosophy, science and arts were systematized, or all of the above? The right option is option C, because books were printed and philosophy and science and arts, these fields were also systematized. So here the right option is option C, all of the above. Next, who himself made the head of Church of England? Who himself made the head of the Church of England? King Henry VI, King Henry VIII, King Henry VII. The right option is option B, King Henry VIII. He himself made the head of the Church of England. Next, where King Henry VIII cut all contact with the Catholic Church and the Pope? Where the King Henry VIII cut all contact with the Catholic Church and the Pope? In Rome, in Italy or in France? The right option is option A, in Rome. In Rome, the King Henry VIII cut all contact with the Catholic Church and the Pope. Next MCQ, who brought church and state together during 1529 to 1539? Who brought church and state together? Charles I, King Henry VIII or King Henry VI? The right option is option B, King Henry VIII brought church and state together during this period 1529 to 1539. The next MCQ, the movement of Humanism was started in Germany, France or Italy? The movement of Humanism was started in Germany, France or Italy? Again, the right option is option C. This movement started in Italy. The next, The first Englishman who wrote under the influence of Greek studies was Dr. Faustus, Sir Thomas More, or Spencer. And the right option is option B, Sir Thomas More. Sir Thomas More was the first Englishman who wrote under the influence of Greek studies. Next, Utopia, written in Latin, is the literary work of Utopia, which was written in Latin. This is the literary work of Shakespeare, Ben Jonson, or Sir Thomas More. The right option is option C, Sir Thomas More. Utopia, this was written in Latin, and this was written by Sir Thomas More. A new literary form in the Renaissance period, the essay, was used successfully by Russell, Bacon, or Shakespeare. A new literary form in Renaissance period, that genre is the essay, and this was first used successfully by Francis Bacon. The right option is Francis Bacon. He introduced this genre, essays. Next, the author of Euphues in prose writing during the Renaissance period was Spencer, John Lilly, or Sidney. The right option is option B, John Lilly. Next is the last MCQ of today's session, MCQ number 20, and all these MCQs are from Renaissance period. The literary work of Spencer in prose writing in Renaissance period was Arcadia, Dr. Faustus, or Fairy Queen. And the right option is option C, Fairy Queen. Fairy Queen, that's the literary work of Spencer in prose writing in the Renaissance period. So dear viewers, these were 20 very important MCQs from History of English Literature, and in History of English Literature, this was a very important period, and that was Renaissance. I have given you some very important information about Renaissance period that started in 15th century, and it started in Italy. If this is asked that when did it start in Italy, that is 14th century after the Middle Ages, and then it reached its peak in 15th century. In the Renaissance means rebirth, revival of learning. So if you are interested, you can watch my previous videos where I have discussed many MCQs from the history of English literature, from figures of speech, from literary devices, and from poetry as well. So that's all for today. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.